Greetings from Austin, Texas. I'm Nichole Jordan, National Managing Partner of Markets, Clients, and Industries at Grant Thornton. We are here live at South by Southwest in Austin and at our Grant Thornton offices here in Austin with the CEO and founder of the Palmer Group, Shelly Palmer. Hey. Shelly, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
How are you?
Very good. Really pleased to experience South by this year with you and your team and with so many others. It was a great opening dinner that you hosted last night. What all are you excited to see at South by this year? What are you looking forward to the most?
So we're living in a time where experiential marketing is the goal of every marketer. People seem now to be willing to pay for experiences more than they want to pay for things.
Yes.
There are various ways to think about the change in the world, access becoming as valuable as ownership. So if I have access to something, I don't need to own it anymore. And the access I want is access to experiences. And so all around South by, some of the world's best marketers have put together their demonstrations of experiential marketing for their individual industries in the interactive side or the movie side, the brand side. And to me, seeing the state of the art in experiential marketing is probably the most exciting part about South by.
I agree with you. So we've had the opportunity to tour a few of these experiences now, and there's nothing that really hits home more than being able to see AI in action, or all of the different technologies and what they're doing from a life sciences perspective for greater efficiencies for companies. Give us a few examples of some of the. I know we're just starting here, but what are some of the more exciting things?
So. 180 degrees away from seeing the technology, one of the most interesting events here is an event from the HBO group about Game of Thrones, where they've built an immersive Game of Thrones experience. Now last year they did it with Westworld. This year they've done it with Game of Thrones. And these are fans experiencing Game of Thrones the way that, with very little technology to be fair, but it's the narrative and the story and the immersion that seems to drive this great emotional connection. And I think now when brands are so reliant on consumer trust, and in a world where you don't know exactly what's real and fake and who you can trust, when you form an emotional bond with a brand and that brand lives up to that promise, and the experience matches your expectation, like, that's checking every box at this point. It's better than, hey, 2 for $1, or it's 20% off. And none of that seems to matter anymore, as much as, do I trust this brand? And so on the other side of it, on the pure technology side, there's so much misconception about what AI is or isn't, or machine learning, or neural networks, or add your own phraseology at this point. There's so many catch-all phrases and buzzwords being thrown around as if people know what they're talking about. And so everybody's adding, like last year everybody added blockchain or cryptocurrency or tokens to their title of their company and it increased its value, or created a product line around blockchain. This year, unequivocally, the buzzword is AI. So everybody's got an AI experience, and you can put it in quotes or you can underline it. Some people are calling it artificial intelligence, some people are calling it augmented intelligence. The most important thing you'll see here is how narrow purpose all of the best tools are. Face recognition AI, pattern recognition AI, speech recognition AI, AI that automates a given task but is really purpose-built to automate that task. That kind of automation is going to change the world, because not that it's taking over. What it's doing is making things more efficient and eliminating drudgery jobs that used to require cognitive workers, white-collar workers, knowledge workers. And it's that office pool of 20 people who were processing paper that was still too hard to do with data processing in the old days, from the punch card days, because anything that could be automated with punch cards already had been. Anything that could be automated with optical character readers could do it. But now reading the optical characters and getting it to be text wasn't understanding what was on the page. And now that AI can understand what's on the page in a natural language understanding environment, all of a sudden it's a game changer. So we see this automation being super threatening to some, but also empowering to others. And so we're in this time of transition, and as you walk around South by and you go to the various organizations that are showing off their version of augmented or artificial intelligence or incorporating it into their experiences, you get to realize two things. One, it's very narrow purpose. When it's specialized, it's best. When it's well trained and specialized, it's best. And two, you can really start to feel that that level of automation is going to have an impact across every industry. And while South by is mostly a lot of marketers showing off their marketing prowess and their marketing skill, this is not limited to marketing technology or advertising technology or anything to do with branding. This goes from supply chain to auditing, yes, to anything that happens in the back office, to anything that happens in the front office. We're in a different place now. And if you look carefully and you think a little bit about what you're seeing, that's the insight you'll draw.
Really well said, Shelly. And I want to expand on that a little bit further because, as you know, we interact a lot with management teams and boards around preparing for the future. And maybe share with us a couple of the key takeaways or some of the best practices that you advise management teams and boards as they are preparing for the future and thinking about all of these new technologies.
So there were two things that we think are fundamental principles of digital transformation. First is that it is not a waterfall project that you have been trained since B school to do. It doesn't have a beginning, middle, and ending. It doesn't have an end vision where you're going to know when you're done. It doesn't start from scratch and just build and then there's a milestone and build and there's a milestone. It is not a waterfall. It's a lifelong commitment to learning and continuous improvement. And if you look at innovation and digital transformation as a ongoing thing that just you have, cultural thing that has to be part of the DNA. There has to be organs in the body that are dedicated to that.
Business as usual.
Right? That is just table stakes at this point. Routine innovation, continuous improvement, and it never ends. There's no, hey, it's in this budget year, it's in that quarter. No, none of that. A project maybe. There may be, and whether you choose to do that waterfall or agile, that's up to you, and there's a lot of management techniques about getting projects done. You can say, oh, we need to automate the accounts payable department. That's fine. You may think that has an end. It doesn't. And the reason it doesn't is because when you finish it, the code will need to be updated because it will now be partially obsolete. More importantly, there'll be so many advances in automation and artificial intelligence that's trained to do that, including, by the way, the system you built that's specially trained for your corporation, that it's going to need to be continuously worked on. And so those teams are never going to be done. That's a giant leap of managerial faith. Right? And it's also a little strange to say to the shareholders, I need an unlimited budget for an unlimited period of time. In other words, the future we know is going to change and we need to be ready to adapt every single day. So that's the first principle that we kind of lay out there. And the second one is that never do anything by computer you can do easier, cheaper, and faster by hand. The exact opposite. If your guys are doing it in Excel and the lady sitting at that desk is the greatest Excel lady in the world, and she's banging this stuff out all day long and you're getting what you need out of it, by the time when you hire a team to turn that into a database and an interface, you better have an amazing reason why automating that or changing the way it's done is better than Excel. And I see this like just because you can doesn't mean you should problem happen everywhere. People are like, we'll automate that, we'll automate that, we'll automate that. It's like, whoa, hold on a second. That's working fine. It costs the right amount of money. Someone with 20 years domain expertise is on top of this. You're going to automate it for what? And when you're done, exactly how much better will it, like incrementally better will it be? If you're only talking about marginal utility increases that you have to measure like, with a microscope, what are you doing? And so part of our job as advisors in digital transformation, design, strategy, design, and engineering is to tell our clients when we don't think they should hire us or anybody else to do something. It's like, nah, that's awesome, leave it. We've analyzed it for you and it's pretty cool. These are the things you could change. Because when you make the commitment to change, it's not, okay, I need a budget for this quarter and next quarter and then we'll be done. That's not a transformation, that's a project. And it may be called a transformation project, but you're kidding yourselves, you're making a mistake, and it is, you assume so much technical debt that at the end of it, it looks like a really bad decision. And we don't like our clients to make bad decisions, especially financial ones where shareholders will be sad about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've given us a lot to think about with that, Shelly, and certainly I know that's what our clients are looking for today, just that honest assessment. Really, I think we've seen this movement away from folks thinking that it must be, it really requires $1 million projects to get up and running in AI or ML or whatever the case may be. Really start small and look at the return, look at the impact that it'll make.
Absolutely. And look, I don't have a CEO in any of our client companies that doesn't owe their shareholders the greatest amount of shareholder value and enterprise value possible. And in most cases, that's governed by EBITDA. So there's only two ways to make money. You can raise the price, you can lower your costs. But one way or the other, you've got to do something along those lines. Well, the automation that's possible now certainly feels like a lot of cost cutting is about to happen. And my only moral dilemma with this, and it's a pretty substantial one, is that for every job you eliminate, someone needs to be retrained, repurposed, and given a job that they excel at, gives them personal satisfaction and dignity. And that transition, I think, is the responsibility of every corporation who's about to eliminate 40 jobs in accounts payable with an automation tool. It's like, great, these people are fabulous. They have car payments to make, they got mortgages to pay, they got kids in school, they got groceries to buy. They're people that helped you build your company to where you are. How are you going to empower them for a future where their time is freed up to do other more important things with the knowledge and the experience that they've acquired, making your company valuable? And that's the sort of ethical side of the Palmer Group, and it's what we hope that our transformation clients take to heart, because these are human beings. Machines are machines and humans are humans, and being a father and a grandfather, human beings come first.
Absolutely, and just to build on that a little bit, we've discussed quite a bit at recent conferences and in a number of discussions this movement towards, or this principle of every company becoming a technology company.
Oh yeah.
And tell us what you think about that.
You know, it's really hard to tell somebody who's in the beauty business or the fashion business or a bowling ball business that they're a tech company. And especially now, because, and you'll see it at South by everywhere, companies are offering software as a service, or business as a service, computers as, like, anything that you can put into a self-serve model is being put into a self-serve model. Including, of course, cloud storage. Every big company, Amazon, IBM, Microsoft, Google, are all selling cloud storage and cloud computing and cloud machine learning. So it's pretty easy for you to imagine a world where your business is you, a laptop, and a Starbucks card, and a lot of cloud-based tools. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to imagine. It's also easy to imagine how much savings there is in using those tools, because you don't have to have the people, the knowledge, or the expertise. And the question you got to ask yourself is, what are your core competencies, truly core competencies, and what is the differentiating qualities of the business? Mission, vision, values, content pillars, the most fundamental things about your company that would be better served if you had a tech team that was dedicated to it 24 hours a day, trying to keep it in, put it or keep it in a certain place. Mm-hmm. And a lot of companies don't make that leap. They outsource a lot of stuff, and they bring in vendors to help, and they do all the things we see in big business, because it's easier than trying to get a team and do something. And I understand as well as anyone, when you have big corp, and you buy a company because you know you can't build it, so you acquire it, and then you say you're going to leave it alone, but you try and bring it inside, and then of course it gets destroyed, and the corporate culture crushes the souls of the people who were ran the little company you acquired, and the entrepreneurial spirit is just beaten out of them. We see that happen all the time. But it doesn't mean it's the wrong idea, it's just the wrong execution. There's no version of the world where there's less data tomorrow than there is today. I love to say the velocity of data is increasing, will always increase. So if you know that as a CEO, if you know that as a CMO or a CFO, if you know that tomorrow we're going to be swimming in data, and the data is going to come from all kinds of places, passive and active. You know it's just going to be from sensors, it's going to be from first-party data from cash registers, from credit cards, whatever it's going to be from. How are you going to turn that into action? And who are you going to let turn that into action? And how will you create value by turning that into action? Data into action to create value. And that by itself, because the world is filled with data, you are a tech company. Full stop, because your job isn't doing what you do. It's turning the data that's generated by what you do into action that makes that transaction better, faster, and more profitable. Takes costs out of the system, enables you to raise the price, increase the quality. You can go on and on and on. For every single business metric that you would lay against that, there's a data turned into action tool that gives your competitor a competitive advantage. So you either let that happen to you, or you adopt a continuous innovation strategy. You dedicate your company to digital transformation, and you understand in your heart of hearts that Jeff Bezos started as a bookseller and realized pretty soon he needed some technology. So what did they do? They built the tech they needed, and then they figured out, hey, AWS, maybe we could sell that to people. We like this. This works good. And was it $12 billion a year of cloud storage that, wow, from a tool they needed to sell books. So you can go down the list of things that Amazon created because they needed it and then started to sell it. You can find those examples in a lot of companies. And I'm not suggesting that companies change their businesses. And there may not even be enough engineers in the world to hire to get this done. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't have a vision that's clear about where the company is and where the company would need to be in order to be a vicious competitor and a survivor because it was able to adapt. To the future. So that's the kind of vision we try to put forward. That's the way I look at companies being tech companies. And so far, I'm not getting a lot of pushback from our clients. The problem is that a lot of this takes investment, and the investment is going to impact, if it's cash, it's going to impact EBITDA. And you have to make certain numbers to make the street happy, and you've got to have a good quarter every quarter. And when you don't, then you're not the CEO anymore, and you can't do the digital transformation. And so there's this interesting balance and dance between ROI and investment in technology and in the future that has to be respected. And it's the hardest part, and it's why we have a job, to be fair. It's the hardest part, but that's why we have a job.
It is, and thank you for those insights, Shelly. And I think just speaking about the investments that we all need to be making and how to generate the money to make those investments. As you know, I spend a lot of time in the growth strategy and in growth, and I have been really pleased with the ability of these technologies to help us bring more value to customers, to clients, to help us grow, but mainly to understand their interests and create an even better experience, a more relevant experience for every individual client as a person, let alone their company. And I think technology is dramatically changing that, which the more value we bring to our clients, the more we can grow our firm and make these investments in creating a better future. I'm just curious, if we think about growth in particular, what are some of the technologies that have your attention the most as it relates to maybe AI impacting sales? I mentioned this at your dinner last night, which was a great discussion with many leaders, but maybe AI in sales or machine learning in growth. What are you seeing out there?
So growth seems to be the goal of every P&L owner. And it's either defined as revenue growth or user growth right? I mean, there's some companies have no revenue whatsoever. They're just growing by the amount of users, the amount of customers that are experiencing the brand or part of the organization. The way we look at AI and growth is actually backwards from the way that you'll read about it. Technology is meaningless unless it changes the way you behave. And so I'm not building, it's not if you build it, they will come, unless you have a vision for what it is you're going to build. So when I think about growth, the first thing I ask our clients to do, and the first thing we do with our clients, is we train them, the executive leadership teams, through a series of workshops and exercises, how to ask data-driven questions, as opposed to questions. I need to grow my business. Well, yeah, I need to grow my business too. That's not a data-driven, how do I do that? That's not a data-driven question.
Yes.
There may be data components to it, but that's not. What's the last day I can sell a full-price barbecue grill in the Home Depot on Route 7 in Danbury, Connecticut before I have to transship it or mark it down? Figure that out about that barbecue grill, and there's 20,000 SKUs you can figure it out about, and all of a sudden you found 25, 30 points of margin you wouldn't have had on inventory that was going to have to be somehow written down. Wow, that's a data-driven question. That is a growth driver. And so if you can have your executives asking data-driven questions, then you can answer the question, well, then what data sets do I have and which ones do I need? And then when I have them all in one place, what kind of calculations would have to be done in order to find the insights I need to drive growth? And is that better done with a spreadsheet, with heuristics, with statistical machine learning, with AI, with an abacus, with a carrier pigeon, with a magic carpet, smoke signals? It doesn't matter. The tool can't drive the question. The question needs to drive the tool. And if you don't know how to ask a data-driven question in a data-driven world, you can't grow your company. And so it's always, and it's so sexy to say, yeah, I got this whole AI thing going. It's like, yeah, why? Because what's the purpose of that? I have a very specific business question I need answered. I have a very specific business problem that if I solved, for example, if a customer walks in the store and to buy makeup, and I know precisely and exactly what her color story is, and I know her historic color stories, and the system itself goes, based on this year's colors, this would be the perfect array of makeup and treatment for this customer. Now that's done everything. Now you can have a relatively low-wage, well-experienced human being who knows how to apply makeup, not have to sit there and ask 400 questions of you since you've been to the store
Absolutely.
100 times. You change the experience. You get a different product mix. You're going to sell more because they're going to buy more because it's so perfectly matched to them. And so, yeah, what data sets do you need to make that happen? What permission do you have to make that happen? And then after we're done with all of those questions, and there's pages of those questions, what tool set will I use to bang out the answer? You know what? Leave that to us. We'll tell, you can buy that. What you can't buy is what you know about this color lipstick and this color rouge and this color eyeliner and the way the fashion patterns and textiles are going to be in ready to wear this year. And you can expand that to any business. It could be the automotive business. What car are you going to buy? You've been here 3 years ago to lease a car. What are you likely to want? And what can we do to incentivize you? What can we do to incentivize you to come and experience our brand or our product? That will be empowered by AI, but that's actually a misstatement of what's the empowerment. The empowerment is I'm turning data into action by asking the right questions of the data, and then I built a tool to help me deal with it. And the best way to think about it, and I've said this a million times, I gave you a 10 by 10 matrix, a spreadsheet of just the 10 rows, 10 columns. Hey, Nicole, here's 10 rows, 10 columns about this particular thing. You're an expert in it. You're going to look at it for about 5 minutes and go, yep, this is this, this is this. You're just going to know what it is. But if that spreadsheet was 25,000 columns by 250 million rows, nobody human can look at it. A machine needs to look at it. What the machine's going to do with that data comes from the insights off of that 10 by 10 matrix. And if it doesn't, the machine does nothing. It does nothing. It's not a human. It doesn't think, regardless of the name artificial intelligence. It does what it's purpose built to do. It surfaces patterns and it makes inferences based on correlation, not causality. Right? These three things when these three things happen, that thing happens. Well, I don't know the narrative of why. I'm a human, I want to know why. Well, if these things happens, this happens. Why? I want that narrative because people want a story. The computer doesn't want a story, it's a computer. It knows that when these three things happen, that happens. Well, if that makes you money, you want to make these three things happen as often as humanly possible.
Right.
Do you use AI for that? You could. You might be able to use heuristics for it. You might be able to use simple math in a simple, very inexpensive computer that's in somebody's handheld. Who cares what the tech is? Leave that to the technologists. Ask the right questions. You'll get the right answers.
Great insights. So asking the right questions. And so in thinking about 2019 and a look ahead, and it's been a great year so far. Yeah. We've spent time at CES. We're now here at South by together, and you are the CES Whisperer.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, are you the South by Whisperer as well? I'm sure you are.
Well, I don't know if I would live up to that, but I do love this show, and I do love this event. It's really not a show. It's really an experience. South by is a force of nature. They've done such a wonderful job building this into a really wonderful festival with a lot of great things to see and do.
Great takeaways. Well, I was curious in your view on 2019 and a look ahead. I can see all the things you've already done in 2019. But as you look ahead, what are some of the things that have you most excited for the rest of the year?
So I'm really concentrating on two things right now. One is 5G. And what that's going to mean to society writ large, how it's going to be deployed, whether it looks like it's going to be industrially deployed first. So what does a 5G hospital room look like? What does a 5G factory floor look like? How are robotics impacted by it? The media industry could be completely transformed in a radically disruptive way. Right now, the cable companies put a cable in your house and you attach your TV to the cable and they sell you video or they sell you internet access. In a 5G world, the TV manufacturer puts a 5G radio in the TV set. You put the TV set anywhere and you don't need a cable company, you just need content subscriptions. Mm-hmm. That's a really radical change in business model and technology. And so 5G, and it goes to every industry. There's a technology called CV2X, which is cellular vehicle to everything. V for vehicle, the number 2, and X for everything. So CV2X is a cellular version of vehicle to everything. But that means it'll talk to smartphones, it'll talk to other cars. So think about this. Cars are talking to other cars are talking to your smartphones, cars are talking to streetlights, cars are talking to buildings, cars are talking to parking lots, cars are talking to each other and things. So the amount of data that's going to float around in that particular world is pretty insane. Who owns it? Another insane question. But at the end of the day, when you start thinking about all of the stuff that 5G empowers, this low latency, high bandwidth, intense network, the collective mind of humans is amazing. The collective mind of things, we have no idea what that's going to be. So that really has my attention. And I'm spending a lot of time now trying to sort out when you can use commoditized artificial intelligence and when you need to train your own. So if I need to recognize faces, there are face recognition databases that are purpose-built for that. Facebook has one. They don't rent it out, but Facebook, Google has one. Pardon me. Somebody could, in practice, build a face recognition tool set that would recognize all the faces there are, and it's purpose-built, or natural language understanding, or natural language processing, or automatic speech recognition. If you need automatic speech recognition, you're not going to build it yourself now. You're going to rent it from Amazon. No matter what it costs, it's cheaper than you building it, and it's better than you could build. So those things are commoditized immediately. But what is the AI coworker? What is the human-machine partner that you need to build to empower your staff? Because if the human does what the human does and the machine does what the machine does, and you put it together, then really good things can happen. As I said, the machine can look at 25,000 columns by 250 million rows. You can't, but you certainly can tell it how to look at it. So the better human-machine partnerships that form, and now those training sets will have to be custom built because they have to do with a company, its own acronyms, its own workflows, its own supply chain, its own accounting practices. And so those things, like that human-machine partnership, what can be commoditized and what needs to be built and trained, fascinates me a lot. And then the last thing we spend time thinking about is, in general, from a technology point of view, where the line is drawn between build or buy, pure build or buy, which was always been a really academic exercise, truly academic. If we build it, it's going to cost X. If we buy it, it's going to cost Y. But now this idea that a cognitive agent would be an employee of your company makes you kind of think you want to have unique employees that live forever, that keep the institutional memory, that have good understanding of what's happening. And so if you had 6 narrow purpose-built AIs, one for HR, one for supply chain, one for MarTech and advertising optimization, you go down the list that were really trained for what you do,
Right.
with the human-machine partnerships put in place where they belong, I don't know if you can buy that. You kind of have to build it. So I can make an argument for both sides, but this is like, we're laser focused on how we make the right business decisions. There's no such thing as future proofing. It can't be done. But you can set up probable futures and place some bets in your technology investments that will give you the most optionality in the future. And that's really that's the sort of mental chess game I'm playing every day, trying to help our clients navigate an ever-changing world.
That's terrific. Excited to stay close to you on this as everything evolves. And Shelly, just appreciate your insights and appreciate the opportunity to team with you to help bring more value to our clients, and have enjoyed our partnership. So thank you, and let's go enjoy South by.
All righty.
I'm Nichole Jordan. To learn how Grant Thornton can partner with you to strengthen corporate governance, leadership, diversity and culture, customer focus, and technology and innovation within your business, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.